Alternative carburetors. The best carburetor in the world, just hands down, is the SU carburetor. It holds the air-fuel relationship static, 14 to 1, all the way through the range, assuming it's operating correctly. And it also enriches the mixture at acceleration. But because they're so unusual and because they're misunderstood, people thought from the earliest times that an American carburetor might be better. They're not. They can't be. They have a fixed venturi. They have a fixed jet. We've got a movable venturi, that is the air piston moving up and down. We have a tapered needle that hangs off the bottom of the air piston to control the mixture. SUs are just the best carburetors around, but a lot of other ones have been used. On the B series engine, the Nash Metropolitan, which came to this country through American Motors, I think, or Hudson, they used, help me out, did they use a Solex? Is that what's used on a Nash Metropolitan? It's a downdraft. But those things only did about 45 miles an hour. So that's an earlier carburetor. And then back in the T-type days, I get a nice note from Pat Garrity, who said, "Oh my gosh, if I'd known you, I would have sent you some pictures." But I don't know how to share that. I'm at the limit of my technical knowledge, even making this program work. But anyway, Pat Garrity said he had one of those old Nixon manifolds. Said he put it on his car and his TC back in the day, with the American carburetor, and expected it to run just a whole lot better. Nope. Nope. Carburetors are, all carburetors do is mix gasoline with air. They evaporate the gasoline. That's their function. It's not the carburetor that makes the car run well. It's how the air is flowed through the carburetor and into the engine. That's what makes it run well. And in the case of an MG, the air goes straight through. I mean, it goes through the air cleaner. You go around a radius, and then through the carburetor and straight into the engine. You can't get any better. The worst one, of course, absolutely hands down, is the TC and TD. Actually, the TD is worse because you've got an air filter and the air has to go up and then change direction and come back down through the inside or the other way around, and then into the air manifold where it takes a 90 and goes straight out to the right, and then it takes another 90 and goes fore aft, and then it takes another 90 and goes through the carburetors. Now it's where it should be. The great advantage of the TD especially, but anything with an oil wetted air filter, is that the air going into the engine can be very, very clean, unlike some of the other filters. So the T-types had a Nixon manifold. Tom Long was on just a moment ago talking about his wallow speed. And was there anything else, Tom, besides that Nixon carburetor? And is that a downdraft Solex on there or what?
No, that was a Ford 90. And
Okay.
Nixon made single and dual manifolds also for T series.
Ooh.
Bell, the same people who made the aluminum valve covers, also made intake manifolds. Badger made them. And as I say, there's single and dual Nixons. And I think that probably from my point of view, the reason why there were so many American manufacturers of these things was because for American mechanics, SUs were terra incognita. And if
Yep.
they could slap a Ford 90 onto a manifold, they knew just what to do with it, or at least the best they could do with it.
Yes. Yep. And that whole attitude prevailed into the Weber carburetors that are fitted to the. It's so sad to see, and I mean it's bad enough to see when it attached on an MGB. Excuse me, this is me talking. The Weber at your house ought to be there for cooking steaks and chicken. It shouldn't be on your car. So the side draft Webers, now we're into racing. That's a whole different ball game, and those are great. I mean, those are really really nice. A side draft Weber, they get the air into the engine. Again, mixing the gasoline with the air isn't the problem. It's getting the air into the engine with as little restriction, with as few turns, nice radiuses, and that side draft Weber is great, only that it's gulpy. So it's on a race car, it's great. A lot of people have trouble with a side draft Weber around town. So it's made for a higher speeds. You can set them up, they'll work, but it takes a while to get them dialed in. What doesn't take a while to dial in is the downdraft Weber. Those are just so simple. And anybody who works on old Volkswagens, the Weber carburetor is just the easiest carburetor in the world for some people to work with. And the problem is the air goes in on the side and then comes around, but not through a radius, and then goes down through the carburetor, hits the bottom, has to take a 90-degree turn and goes fore aft and takes another 90-degree turn and goes into the engine. So the airflow, not mixing the gasoline with the air. Any carburetor does that, but getting the airflow good. That's the downside of some of the downdraft, well, all the downdraft Webers. The other problem with the downdraft Weber is that during idle, there's so little air moving in the intake manifold that the gasoline drops out of suspension, puddles on the bottom of the channels, the galleries going into the engine, and as soon as you hit the throttle and the air comes rushing into the engine, it picks up all that gasoline. The car stalls, ooh, and then immediately takes off. Runs great, but that Weber stall is from the gasoline separating. The real early Weber downdraft carburetors had a fitting on the bottom, not unlike a TR6 has, or maybe some of the earlier TRs do, where they heat the intake manifold. Remember, the intake manifold is like ice cold because you've just evaporated all this fuel. It takes heat for evaporation. Therefore, the airflow going into the carburetor is just ice cold. That's where you get carburetor icing on some damp mornings with some carburetors. I've had it on NSU. It's rare, but it's certainly possible. So the downdraft Webers don't have good airflow. The side draft Webers do have good airflow, but they're hard to set up for conventional use, and they're really, really gulpy. If you like the gulpy, hey, you're home free. Another downside of that downdraft Weber is getting the front tappet inspection cover vented into the inlet system. And I prefer just to bore a hole through the air cleaner, put some kind of fitting on there, some kind of barb fitting with some nuts and washers that isn't going to come undone and fall down inside the carburetor, and just hook your vent from your front tappet inspection cover into the front of that air cleaner. It makes it work out a whole lot better.
John, there was one aftermarket intake manifold that worked a charm, and that was the twin Solex manifold. I have a factory Solex manifold set up for a T-series with twin 38 PICT carburetors. I've only seen one other set, and that was on an Arnault car, but that's one that's a real screamer, and it's the only one as far as I've seen.
Okay. So Twin Solex is this back on a T-type. What's your business name, Tom? So make a pitch for the T-typers that are on here that don't know that you sell some parts.
Oh, I hate to blow my own horn. I'm Tom Longa from MGT Repair in Bar Harbor, Maine. I sell brass core plugs that actually fit, unlike the big guys who don't. I sell TD and TF axle shafts, ARP head studs and nuts, main studs, all kinds of things. mgtrepair.net is my homepage, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about anything, just the way John is.
Thank you. Tom and I go back a long, long way. Oh my gosh. So there were some Japanese carburetors built under license, I expect, because they're clones to an MG. And those are the Japanese Mikuni carburetors. And for a while, you saw those out in the marketplace. I haven't seen any for a long time. The suction chambers on top, instead of being round, they're not square, but the base on them is square. They look kind of different. But it's the same idea. You've got an air piston. It's a variable constant. It's a CD carburetor, constant depression. So those are the Mikunis, and I don't know anything about Dellortos. Nothing. I know they're out there. I know the name, but again, it all has to do with getting a straight airflow from the outside into the inside of the cylinder head, and you just can't get a whole lot better than an SU. Just as an aside, the fuel pumps, the SU fuel pumps, there are two of them made under license. One is Harding, and I think I still see those. I don't know if they're still making them or not, but sometimes every now and then I run into one that looks relatively new, a Harding. It's out of Germany. And then there used to be an SU pump out of New Zealand, and the bodies were all plastic, which worked until you really cranked down one of those half-inch BSP banjo bolts that held the inlet or outlet, and it's difficult, but you could crack the plastic case.
John, the two fuel pumps I think you're talking about, one is a German pump called a Hartung, Hartung.
Excuse
And
me.
recently I've heard of people buying new Hardy, Hardi. They have different fittings
Oh,
than SU, but from what I understand, Hardy is still around and will rebuild their fuel pumps. But
okay.
I mean, why if you can get an SU, if you can get an SU?
Well, the new SU pumps are what, $350 now. It's crazy town.
And
Um,
unattainable.
so I rebuilding the pumps.
You can
Rebuilding the
get
pumps is so much. It's so much easier to do.
Scarborough Fair sells the Hardy pumps.
Okay. And
They're not in stock right now, but she has them.
okay, and Glenn from Glenn's MG Repair in St. Petersburg just goes, "You guys are nuts," and he buys. Oh, come on, what are the inline pumps? Um,
Facet.
Facet. Yeah, they're perfect. He said they never fail. 3.5 pounds, absolutely unoriginal. If it's a later TF or a or a B or a midget, put it in back. No one's going to know. They don't rattle. They don't buzz. On a T type, a TC, you can't put one of those in place of the firewall mounted one. It's just, I mean, you got two functions right here, right? Form. I mean, you got two factors. You got form and function. And in the form of the fuel pump, okay, it's important a little bit, but the function of the fuel pump is probably the more important part. But once you get back to a firewall mounted pump, you just can't put some horrible looking thing there. It's just an affront. Anyway, um, those are my
Hey,
my
hey, John, it's Gerard D'Angelo from Yardley.
yes, sir.
Quick question. And in regards to the SU pumps, and the rebuild components, I've rebuilt two of mine so far, but I'm finding a lot of difficulty in finding like the cork disc that goes in the round portion of
Okay.
and the little
Contact Joe
plastic.
Curto. Contact Joe Curto,
Okay,
the
in
Carburetor
Queens, yeah,
King. And
yeah.
I bought it's one of the Badinsky family, I think, that are making all those old court gaskets, the AUA 25,
Mark.
all those gaskets there. And he's
Yeah,
got them
because
all
the
available.
other one was the little plastic disc that's it, like that little cellophane disc. That is like
So
nobody makes
okay,
that.
all right.
And the
So
kits from Moss are ridiculous in price.
well, that's someone told me that what they figured happened was that SU Berlin Fuel Systems blew through all the replacement parts, and now they're having to make them again. And of course, the new manufacturing costs are off the chart. So
Right, right.
again, I would encourage anyone who's looking for good used parts to contact Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado, And Paul or Ian there will tell you, I mean, that kind of stuff, the discs, they could sell you a couple of discs like that. If yours are cracked and not working.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because that's just happens to be where I am right now. I'm out here for training in Denver.
Okay, there you go. Arvada, go up in the northwest quadrant there and
Yep,
call on them. Yep, yep.
John,
absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, it's Tim Smith.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to put a Facet pump upstream of an SU pump?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Take the innards out of the SU and just pump through it.
Oh, you don't even have to take them out. There's two one-way valves in line.
Yep.
It does not impact the function of the Facet pump at all. It'll draw through, and if it draws through, then it'll push through, right? So yeah, it's a lot of people have another fuel pump right mounted underneath the bonnet, and all they have to do is they're already pulled off the road, right? Because the car's already quit, and hook up the wires or whatever, and off you go again. So yes, you can put those in line.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Hey, John, before you leave Weber carburetors, I have a question.
Yes.
Best source for the electric choke, where to take the wire from?
All I know, okay, so 1975 through 1980, you already have a green wire
Right.
that is designed for the intake manifold and comes from the wiring loom right at the alternator. It already comes across the top of the cover. Just use him. Easy schmeezy. If you're not doing that, then the next easier place is to take him off the fuse box. But of course, this involves laying a wire across the top of the engine. But even you can't. You want to get exotic, you can go to the brake light switch on an MGB 68 through 80 and find the green wire, put a four-way in there instead of a two-way Lucas, and run a wire from there over to your choke. But you want to run it off the green circuit. You want to run it off the third fuse down at the rear.
All right. I just picked up an LE that has, or I'm sorry, a 72 that has a
Okay.
Weber on it.
So in any place you can pick up a green wire, and sometimes it makes sense to sheath that wire in a piece of tubing. You can, of course, you can't push a wire very easily, but I bet you could there if you get some sort of like a black tubing that you'd use on your washers or something like that, and just feed a wire through that. You can also feed a wire by drawing a vacuum on one end. That helps move the wire through too. So anyway, those are all possibilities.
Thanks.
And
All
John,
right.
while you're on that,
Yes.
while you're on that topic, can you please explain how the electric choke works?
So on a Weber carburetor or on a Stromberg carburetor with a water heat mass, there's a bimetal strip that's in a spiral, and as it warms up, the end of it moves one way or another. There's a little finger that fits into that, and that controls in the Weber that controls the throttle, the choke. An actual choke, that's the throttle disc above the jetting, and that controls its position, that bimetal strip in there, and then you can adjust all the chokes back and forth so that it comes on earlier, later, more completely, stuff like that. And but I'm not the Weber guy. Pierce Manifold in California is the supplier of all the manifolds and all the rebuild parts. That's my understanding. So if you got Weber, if you want to get different Weber jets, you want to get different Weber rebuild kits, anything like that, it's Pierce, Pierce, Pierce Manifold, and they're in I want to say Riverside, but I'm Greater Los Angeles area, I think. So.
Hey, John, you were talking
Thanks.
about the California for Pierce. I had a Stromberg on my 77, and I went to the Weber, and I talked to California, and they, like you said, the air goes straight down, then has to go over. And he recommended on taking a like a grinder and then down there in that manifold and grind it out and make it nice and smooth and sort of modify the gasket on there, and you just smooth out that entire area. And so when the air goes down, it actually makes a better flow. It doesn't hit and go over.
Okay.
I did that to mine, and I could really tell a big difference on there. Plus, you were talking about the air going into the carburetor. I have from the air breather, I was putting that to the carburetor, and boy, was I getting a lot of oil. And so I put an oil water separator that I bought through Amazon and directed it in there, and then straight into the carburetor. And like you said, the Weber gives a bad attachment. And I put like a brass U piece in there, and that flows really nice. But that oil water separator, that really catches a lot of it, and less oil in my carburetor.
Okay. All right.
Works well.
I've seen those on cars. I always ascribe a collection of oil in the carburetor as the rings are beginning to fail. But never mind. It's still, if that helps keep the oil in the engine, or you're able to pull the oil out of there and dump it back in the engine, it keeps the carburetor from getting so gummed up. So yeah.
Mr. Twist,
Yes.
this is Justin. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'm glad to see that you are well. We were all, of course, I'm sure, I know I'm speaking for myself, surprised that you had a heart condition, but we're certainly glad that you're well and you look like you're recovering wonderfully.
Not as surprised as I was.
Oh,
Anyway, okay. All right.
But
Thank
I
you.
wanted to, sure thing. I wanted to add on the Weber source of parts and whatnot. Red line is one.
Red line?
Red line carburetors, red line Weber.
Okay. Okay.
And secondarily, Pegasus racing parts.
Okay.
They've been really good to me recently because I had some gaskets I was looking for, and I couldn't quite find what I was looking for elsewhere. So between Pierce, like you said, and then Redline and the other one that I mentioned there, Pegasus auto racing parts or racing parts, you can pretty much find anything you would need for the Webers.
Right.
So I just wanted to add that bit.
Thank you. Of all the considerations in the Weber, the float height is so critical because all the jets are fixed. You know, you buy the kit, or that if you call Pierce manifold, they say, oh, the idle jet's supposed to be this, and I don't know what they all are. I don't know how they work. But there are 3 or 4 different things with orifices, and there's one set up for MGBs, and if you get that, it works great. Talking to my associate in Holland, Carl Heidemann, he says, well, just buy the kit. Just buy the kit. It's got all the jets in it, and just keep trying them until you get the best one. I said, well, what's the kit cost? And he goes, oh, it's only about $600. Anyway, it's easier if you just buy the jet that they tell you to. But if you buy the jet they're supposed to, but you've got the float height too high, it's going to run too rich for sure. So float height is real critical in that, and that's as much as I can tell you right now about float heights in the Webers, only that I know that it's really important. And after Webers sit for a long time, there's some little tiny passages in there. I mean, 1/16 of an inch, like drill bit size or smaller. And if they plug up, then it can't work the way it's supposed to. So there's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of cross drillings, and when you go to do a Weber, you want to make sure that you have it all apart and have it all clean, which means almost a nice clean sheet of paper on your desktop, and take one part off at a time, and just use your camera, use your phone, take a bunch of pictures as you're taking it apart so you can put it back together. Anyway, about Webers.
Hey, John, this is Judd. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good, Judd.
Well, I'll tell a quick story. I don't know if you can see my picture or not. That's a TD, but those aren't TD carburetors. My carburetors were off.
Oh, yeah. What are those from?
Well, that's from a 1936 MGTA.
Okay.
Mine were off being refurbished, and we had a big show coming up. And I put a message out on our club bulletin board, not expecting anything. Anybody happen to have a pair of SUs I can borrow? And one of our members, Marty, came up and loaned me those for about a month. They bolted right on, took about 5 minutes to adjust them to where they were running good. The
Okay.
linkage isn't quite the same, so you can't see it in that picture, but I had some twist ties and some cables and a turnbuckle to get it all working. But you're right. The SU is the only carburetor that I'm clever enough to understand. But you might explain that SUs don't have a choke, notwithstanding what it says on the knob. They
Notwithstanding
don't
what
need
it
a
says.
choke.
Yep. No, no, they got a mixture control. And that's why I'm so keen on using 90 weight gear oil in the top of the carburetors to restrict the upward motion of the air piston, especially on the later ones. The ones in your picture here may not even have those dampers, but the later ones all do, and that's to slow the ascent of the air piston to keep the venturi artificially small so that the vacuum at the venturi draws more gasoline out of the jet than it would normally, and that's where the enrichment comes from.
And it will start in cold weather.
Oh, hey, if you a normal set of SU carburetors, the old H type, you drop the jet, 3/8 of an inch, half an inch, I bet you could start it in Antarctica. It's just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I want to keep going here. So another alternative. Another alternative to SU carburetors is fuel injection. I know that Moss has had some for sale from time to time. I don't know if they're in the catalog now. Most often they're made by somebody and they're using Ford or General Motors parts or something or other. And throttle body injection. It's not cylinder head injection, throttle body injection. And you can argue that it works out well and everything, but it's a lot of work to get it set up. And I talked to one guy from Raleigh, Greensboro, and this is 20 years ago at least, and they had imposed testing on the cars, and so he took it into a state testing facility with his fuel injection on it. He said that all the meters that they had said it was just well within any kind of emission standard that they had for the year of his car, and it couldn't be any better. But then they looked to see if there was a catalytic converter on the car. There wasn't, so they failed it. Didn't matter what the emissions were. It just they're state employees. They got a book. They got to follow the rules. And this guy told me, he says, well, all the testing facilities weren't connected to each other at that time. So he went home and made a bunch of labels, and he put a label on the bonnet shut platform, and he put some other labels around the car, took it into another testing place, same thing, well within all the emission requirements. But they said, well, wait a minute, it hasn't got the original carburetor on it. This guy goes, well, no, this is one of the fuel injected models. And they said, well, it's not in our book. He goes, well, here's all the factory stickers, and so they passed him. That was the story. That was then. That was a long time ago. So more easily done than fuel injection. The silver bullet at a platinum price is a supercharger. Oh my gosh. Every other carburation system works pushing air into the cylinder with atmospheric pressure, 14.7 pounds. That's what you get. But as soon as you pick up a supercharger, you're pushing it at 15 pounds or 16 or 20. That's a little too much. But you can by adjusting the size of the pulleys on the blowers, you can change the rate at which they supercharge the air going into the engine, and they're not always working. As a matter of fact, a supercharger most often does not work. It doesn't supercharge anything. It's just running along just like it should. It's only when you really put your foot into it and really want to ask the engine to produce a lot of power, that's when the supercharger is necessary, and that's where it works. So if you buy one, and what's a supercharger now? An Eaton supercharger from Moss. Are they still in the catalog right now? Six
No,
thousand.
they're not. They don't have them anymore.
Oh, how
They're
sad.
about $6,000 from
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
list them.
So that's that's a lot of money, but they worked really well. Right in the beginning, there were a lot of problems, but then they got really good. And if you're driving in a mile high city, Quito, Ecuador, or Denver, Denver, Colorado, I mean, oh my gosh, I mean that pushes a whole lot more air inside the engine. You can almost argue that it's necessary. Superchargers have been around for a long time. I probably will defer at this point to Tom again because he knows about Scirocks and Wades and what's the other one?
Well, there's Marshall Nordeck, working sort of down the hit parade. To me, the jewel is the Marshall Nordeck. Marshall Nordeck started out as a company that made cabin air blowers for airplanes, and they adapted the Marshall Nordeck blower to automotive use, and that became the Marshall Nordeck supercharger that we know today. The Shorrock is the next best one, and it's sort of like a Swiss watch. It's a jewel-like system, but it's incredibly difficult to rebuild well and safely. I had one where a guy was racing it, and he actually folded over a vane, and you can't fit a vane into a space that was not intended for it. So he basically just grenaded the entire housing. So if and when it lets go, it really lets go. The next best one, which is related to the Marshall Nordeck, is the Italian-American Italmeccanica. Then the Wade, and there are 3 or 4 other smaller makers, including a couple of unique Australian ones that you never see over here at all. And then there's the Judson supercharger, which is the most common. And it also puts out the least amount of power, but it fits any T-Series car, which is one of the big advantages. And it's a little bit noisy and a little bit underpowered, but they're out there. They were made in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, and Mr. Judson was so proud of his machines that he would talk to you for hours about what was going on. They're heavy, but they're good superchargers. And you can still get, there's a guy, George Folchi, Folchi, and George rehabs the housing for Judsons. He makes new vanes. He remanufactures everything in the Judson line. So if you have a derelict Judson, he can either provide you with the parts or can rebuild it himself.
And those
Yeah,
Judsons are available not just for T-types, but for all the Spridgets and for the MGA. And of course, if they fit an A, they'll fit a B also.
Also, Renault Dauphine, Mercedes 190 SL, VW. Judson made them to fit all of those cars.
Question for you, Tom. This is Greg. Can you swap out the Holley carburetor for an SU, or is that recommended or not recommended? I have a Judson for my A, and it's got a Holley, but I'm contemplating, and I've seen on the ones that come from Moss, they use the SUs. I'm just curious.
Well, the Judson for the T-Series came with an SU carburetor, and your only goal there would be to replace the entire intake manifold with an SU. I don't see why, as long as it fits into a T-Series, you couldn't use a Holley on an MG T-Series.
No, I have an A, and I have the Holley on the A, and I want to know if I can switch it to an SU.
Yeah, but the inlet is down, right? So you
No.
got
No, my Holley is a side draft Holley.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you could put an SU on there.
As long as it'll fit, and as long as you can find a manifold or an adapter to fit.
Well, Jimmy Hilton, who does a lot of carburetor rebuilds, he definitely says he can get one. I just wasn't sure if it's a worthwhile adventure or not.
I don't have any experience, I'm sorry, with MGAs. My brain is so limited that I can absorb T-Series stuff, but as soon as 1956 rolls around, I'm lost.
I
So
understand that.
if Jimmy Hilton says that it'll work, he's been in the car business for a long time, so
He sure has.
yeah, he probably knows. So anyway, but the superchargers are just great. I had a guy call me from this is years ago. He wanted me to build him a distributor before Schlemmer and Medinsky got going with their businesses, and he wanted a supercharged distributor for an MGB. I said, no problem. I get a distributor machine. I got springs, I got weights, I can do it for you. And I said, well, where am I sending this? And he goes, well, to American Samoa. And I said this a long time ago. I said, I don't want to appear too ignorant, but exactly where is American Samoa? And he goes, it's as far from Hawaii as Hawaii is from the West Coast. It's sort of midway between New Zealand and in Hawaii. So I said, well, what do you do? I mean, what do you do there? He says, oh, I used to work on 2-cycle engines, weed eaters and stuff. He says, but now I sell jewelry. I said, to whom? He goes, well, the tour boats, the ships. I said, okay, all right, okay. Well, then I look up American Samoa, and the longest stretch of highway that they have, if it's even highway, is like, I don't know, 18 miles long. It's like, what do you need a supercharger for? Anyway, and especially at 0 feet of elevation. But the supercharger is it. I mean, a normal MGB engine is going to put out about 60 horsepower at the rear wheels. You can fiddle fart around with it and work with it, for street engine, and get it up to 75 at the rear wheels. But you put a supercharger on there, you got 90 horsepower, just like that. So, and you're not using that supercharger all the time. You're just using it when you put your foot into it. You don't have to put it on a rebuild engine. It's a great thing, but I don't know where you'd buy a supercharger right now if Moss doesn't have them. So maybe they'll come back in online. Maybe they won't. Maybe you got to find use. I don't know.
My partner and I are working on that. We expect to have 12 superchargers by the end of the year.
Very cool. But this is for T-types.
T-types only.
Yep. Okay. Again, using that Eaton blower, the same blower.
Oh.
Yep.
Hey, John, this is Judd.
Yes, sir.
You touched on this, and maybe you'll get to it later if I'm out of place, but I drive from 800 feet of altitude to 4,800 feet of altitude on a regular basis. I know a lot of these other people go to real high altitudes. How does the SU accommodate altitude changes, and how do the other ones do the same thing?
I don't know.
Well, drat. That's not helpful.
I like to say that, that I try to keep the bullshit factor real low here. I could make something up, but
do that.
But I do know that normal SUs, by the time you get out to Denver, you got to put different needles in them or grossly readjust them to account for the difference in air pressure. I had a customer I mentioned Quito, Ecuador once before. And he and his family had a bunch of MGs, and he said, yeah, they run great in Quito, but as soon as you come off the volcano and go down into the lowlands, he said you have to stop and readjust the SUs. It's a real problem. But between 8 and 48, I don't know how much, as long as it's working, so.
Seems to work, but I just always wondered.
I don't know. So the last thing I want to talk about is just a sec. Before I and we're not going to leave the whole subject. We'll circle back on it. But my last note here on my list of important things to talk about are the cross flow heads. Those are horrible. Now, does it make sense? Air comes in one side and goes out the other. Yeah, that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is by the time you get the carburetors on there, you can't reach the distributor and you cannot reach the oil filter. So what's the point? What's the point on this? I mean, nothing's more difficult working on than an MGA twin cam. That stuff's all jammed in there. But a cross flow head is like it's supposed to do this and supposed to do that. The new aluminum heads are really nice. They breathe a whole lot better at higher RPM. They don't breathe so well at lower RPM because the larger, I'm the old story. It's like, well, if a bigger carburetor makes your car go faster, why not get a carburetor with a throat that big? Because it doesn't work because the airflow isn't fast enough. The gasoline drops out of suspension. You can't evaporate the gasoline. All this other stuff. So there's a magic combination of airspeed and air velocity and the pulsing. How far away the carburetors are from the engine, and there's a lot of factors involved here. So just the fact that crossflow head looks cool. It used to be on the T-types, they were Lucas Laystall heads, right? Isn't that, Tom? Is that right? The carbs were on the left-hand side of the engine.
It is late stall and Tom stepped away.
Oh, he stepped away. We just see the stool there. So, all right. So anyway, those are my comments. I had at one time I had a customer who passed away who had a complete collection of Road and Track magazines. Well, almost complete. He was missing a couple of the early ones. He had copies, Xerox copies or something of some of the early ones. And he didn't have the last couple of years, but it was always my intention to go through a complete set of Road and Tracks and take a scan of every single MG ad that there was. The sterling silver ashtray, the grab handles, the vents, the Continental kits for the MGA. I just everything. And of course, in there are all these different types of manifolds that tout the performance of a Solex or a Holly, or I've never seen a Quadrajet on one, but anyway, carburetors are all pretty much the same. When Carl Heidemann did all his pulls at Baker Engineering so many years ago with MGBs, and he tried every different manifold and carburation combination that you could possibly imagine, the carburetors all were pretty much the same. Didn't matter what it was. Their job is just to mix gasoline with the air. What did make a difference was the airflow and how easily the air could get from the outside and into the cylinder. And then, of course, the corollary is how quickly can it get back out. So I want to open it up, and if you got some more questions about superchargers or Hollies or Judson. I talked to Mr. Judson. I talked to him. I bought a blower for my MGA and had it on there and had the Marvel Mystery Oil in the valve cover, in a reservoir in the valve cover, and that came loose at speed and covered my late wife and I with Marvel Mystery Oil on a trip over to Holland, Michigan to see the late Greg Purvis. I sold it. It just wasn't worth it. Those things thrash. Oh my gosh, do they thrash? No better explanation of what that word sounds like than to stand next to an MG with a Judson blower on it. It's like 28 different pieces of metal scraping on the inside of something. Oh my gosh, are they noisy? So, but they're cool. They're cool. Anyway,
The cool factor's there.
the cool factors there. So anyway, what can I answer about
Hey, John.
Distributors.
Yes.
Distributors.
Hey.
I wanted to find out about distributors for either a Judson or the Moss. What do you got to do to the distributor if you're putting one on the car?
Well, if you call Schlemmer, he's got something already set to go. I mean, he knows what you should have, and Medinsky may have some of that or all of that information too. But,
Okay.
But
But definitely distributors need to be gone through and changed.
Well, they always have to be anyway if they're old.
Well, it might have
And-
been rebuilt a few years ago. My question is,
Okay,
if I put it
so-
on, do I have to recurve it?
Probably.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm
Yep.
sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Somebody else.
John, would you talk about the aluminum head with the standard ports? Is it
those
better
are
than a
great.
steel head?
Those are great. So there are two great advantages of the aluminum cylinder head. Number one is that it won't crack. The cast iron ones do crack externally and internally. But the aluminum ones, if they do crack, you grind them out and weld them and finish them, and they're all good to go again. So there's no problem there. The other is that in the course of combustion, of course, the exhaust gases are phenomenally hot, and getting the exhaust gases out of the cylinder head is critical, and getting the temperature cool is critical so you can raise the compression. The higher the compression of the engine, the more power it puts out. And there's about, it's not linear, but at the engines, the street engines we're dealing with, if you can raise it up half a point of compression, you get 5 more horsepower, 5 on 60. I mean, that's almost 10%. But the problem with raising the compression inside the cylinder head is that the heat will cause dieseling, just like a diesel engine. But the aluminum cylinder head dissipates that heat so quickly. Plus, the exhaust ports are very much larger than the original. The original exhaust port, almost in one part, is almost as small as your little finger. And that piston's got to come up and push all that hot gas out there. And so you're compressing hot gas, which makes it even hotter. And so the cylinder head gets so hot that you cannot raise the compression for fear of dieseling. So the two advantages of the aluminum cylinder head are you can raise the compression a lot because it cools better. You can get up to 10 to 1 easy. And then the other one is that if you do end up with some kind of problem, some kind of crack someplace, you got a bad head gasket, it blows through. Just take it to a machine shop, they heliarc it and they finish it, and you're all set to go again.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I ask is like I was at Carl's MGB workshop a couple years ago.
Okay.
And he showed that cast iron head where there's that, like the big L in the I think it's in the intake ports.
Okay.
And he said at the time that the aluminum one wasn't any better. That they
not at low speed, but it's they've got larger ports. So if you're constantly running at higher speed, it's better. And again, it goes back to the diameter. You want a small enough diameter so the air stays in.
Understand? You want to stay turbulent or
real turbulent and moving really quickly, because that sort of self supercharges the cylinders. But what he told me. I'm going from what he told me was that at lower speed, they maybe weren't quite as good, but at higher speed, they're great. And you look at a Nash Metropolitan, you look at the underside of the cylinder head, and those valves are as big around as your thumb. I mean, they are tiny little valves, but it works great up to 45 miles an hour. It's wonderful. And you can take any of those cylinder heads and put larger valves in them. Simply by opening up the ports and doing some porting and polishing. And most people still prefer the cast iron heads to the aluminum heads, but the aluminum heads are a pretty good deal.
Okay. Well, I mean, and the other thing that I'd say for the audience, there is in the Classic Motorsports archives, there's an article that Carl wrote about putting a cam and porting the head, I think on Allen's MGB GT. Okay. But in that article, it also shows the horsepower from the turbo or from the superchargers. And there's no doubt, if you want a fast car, the turbo or the supercharger is the only way to go.
There's just hands down. But it's first of all, they aren't available or something, and then secondly, when they are available, the last
I'm not spending $6,000.
Well, how fast do you want to go?
Yeah.
John, you know that book, Modern Fuels and Classic Cars?
Yes.
That is really, it's got a wealth of information on pretty much every aspect of it about, porting and polishing your head, what the benefit is and the disadvantages
it's got a lot of information.
It really does.
And so does David Vizard's book, Tuning the A Series Engine. In that A series, there's a problem with both those books. I'll get to that. So Vizard's writing about the A series engine, which it looks exactly like an MGB engine or like the B series
Yeah,
engine. It looks
yeah.
exactly the same, only it's smaller, except the oil pump's on the back of the cam. That's about it. But all the other information is not precisely true because he's dealing with certain ports and certain valves and certain cams, but all that information can transfer over. The problem with that book is that whoever did the layout put it into like maybe 4 columns, and you can only get about 3 words per column. It's just laborious to read. I mean, physically, it's real hard to read Vizard's book. And the problem with the modern fuels, and that's a wonderful book because the guy I think did all his work on it with a TC or a TD or something rather.
TC.
Most of it, it's right down our alley. Is that there in the world of printing now, the letters that you use, the type font that you use, some type font's really easy to read. It's nice and black, but it takes so much ink to print it. So they cheap on the ink, and it's got one of those fonts in it that's just like, oh my gosh. It's like my eyes ached. Of course, I was reading it on the airplane coming back from England 2 years ago, but my eyes just ached at the end of it because the print was so light. Just those are my two complaints about those two books. So, but the information is dramatic. So,
Hey, John,
yes,
I just noticed that they do have that Eaton Supercharger still available for the MGB on Moss.
maybe Tom,
$6,300.
okay, maybe Tom was talking about for a T-type or something. So, because that, as he said, that his MG knowledge ends at 1950, 55. So
John, I got to scoot. I got another thing I got
all
to
right.
do.
Okay, Greg.
Good talking to you.
Always a pleasure. See ya.
Bye.
Do we have more questions about alternative carburetors? Well,
John?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question about the downdraft Weber carburetor and the stalling you described.
Okay.
Can that, you said that typically happens when you're coming off of idle. Can it also happen at higher speeds?
I wouldn't think so because the air, not for the same reason, certainly. So if it's happening at higher speeds, something else is going on, and I don't know Weber's, but that particular off idle stall is this is what Carl told me because he was looking at air fuel gauge, and you're sitting there idling for 30 seconds at a stop sign, stoplight, or something or other, and hit it, and the fuel gauge just, oh my gosh, you get all this extra fuel, and there's too much fuel. It can't combust. There's not enough air.
Yeah, because I have this weird problem in this car that when I'm going along, let's say 40, 50 miles an hour, if I floor the accelerator, the car just stalls down and then it speeds up.
Well, then maybe it has to do with the accelerator pump, because right at the point of acceleration, it's necessary to add all kinds of extra gasoline, all kinds of extra gas to the mixture to get that acceleration just the way it is. And every carburetor in the world, except SU, does it
Right.
with some sort of pump, and it squirts raw gas right. I mean, just it's crude and rude. Just squirts raw gas into the manifold where it begins to evaporate.
Yeah,
But
I see that happening. If I have the top air
Sure.
cleaner off and I look down in there and I jam
Yep.
the accelerator, you can see it squirting right in.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a plug jet. Maybe. I do
Okay.
not know.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. More questions? Do we have any more questions about alternative
Hey,
carburetors?
John,
Yes, sir.
just to let you know, the carburetor on a Nash Metropolitan is a Zenith
Okay.
downdraft. And
Yes.
along with the small valves on the engine and that carb and the camshaft, it's a wonderful low end torque motor, it'll pull from in third gear, which is its top gear. It'll pull from third gear just fine at 15 miles an hour. And believe it or not, it'll do 65 or 70. You just don't want to stay there very long.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Downdraft. It's a downdraft Zenith. All right. Thank you very much. I worked only on a handful of Metropolitans.
John George Bean here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember you saying anything tonight about the Zenith Stromberg carburetors.
No, because they're the same. They're the same carburetor as an SU.
Okay.
So I mean, it's their constant depression. They're made made by somebody else. They're not made by SU, but it's the whole idea is the same. And there's nothing inherently wrong with a Stromberg carburetor. Those work very well if they're set up. But again, even the people who know SUs sometimes will look at a Stromberg and go, "Oh, yeah, I know, I don't know. Take that thing off and put on a 1 3/4" SU carburetor." So it's just getting to know it. So there's nothing. I wouldn't say that a downdraft Weber is better than a well-tuned Stromberg.
Okay. No, I agree with you on the SU is your best bet on all of them as far as I'm concerned. I throw away, well, I don't throw them away, but I pull every Weber off I can. But the other thing I wanted to say, that exhaust manifold that I asked you a question on the other day, it turned out to be a Stromberg, Zenith Stromberg intake that they had cut off, but they did a beautiful.
That was one of the first things I said. And you said, "Man, it just looks all original." Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yes, sir. Any more questions about these carburetors? We're going to go to our chat section.
Hey, John.
John, quick
Conklin.
question, John. I put it in the chat so you can skip over it, but with the A-series motors, fish carburetors were popular. And I'm wondering, were they ever used successfully with MGBs? I imagine you could have put them on an MGA, but
what kind of carburetor?
Fish. They were like the animal. A rather interesting carb. I don't know if you remember, years ago they talked about the 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor that
sure.
Was
yeah,
keeping. I believe that was the fish carburetor. And it really does exist. So I was curious if you knew anything about it.
I don't. I'll have to scale up my knowledge. No, wait. You got to hook into me now. I got to figure this out. Yep. All right. Okay. So
John?
Yes.
Oh,
just for your.
Here we go. PVANWIG.
Yeah, my name's Paul Van Wig.
Oh, okay. All right, Paul. All right.
I am basically an A-series guy. I've got a very hot rod Sprite with a Weber.
Okay.
That I can attest is not the best street machine I've ever driven in my life, but it does get it out of its own way in a big hurry.
Hey,
but I love my Morris Minor with my little SU. And my wife's Metropolitan has got an 1800 in it with the original Zenith downdraft, so it's not the most powerful Met in the world.
Okay.
First time I've ever joined you guys. Very interesting listening to you today.
Hey, you got it. If you got an invitation in the normal way, just come on next time too. Make a PayPal.
I'm on the West Coast, so I always forget do
yeah,
the time correction.
Yeah. We try. We kicked it up one time to I think starting at 8. Just so it'd be a little more comfortable. But we lost a bunch of East Coasters and we didn't pick up enough West Coasters to make it. And if Tim Smith can come on from London, and I don't know if he's still on, because it's really late there.
John, don't move it to 8 o'clock, whatever you do.
Yeah, right. What time is it in London right now, Tim?
1:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Well, the guy from New Zealand's got it better because it's like 11 o'clock in the morning there or something. So. But
one thing, someone was talking earlier saying they had a problem with the pickup of a Weber. So I have a Lotus twin cam engine with twin 45s on it, and that has exactly the same thing. But what I've learned that's really important is the length of the stack that you put on the carburetor. So if you just have the carburetor with air filters on it, they're horrible. But if you put a little those little stacks that probably about 1.5 inches, and the same I think is true of SUs, that it seems to help an SU flow a bit better. Would you agree with that?
I will emphasize that because my associate Carl tried SU carburetors, and then he only put on the on an MGB. There's a disc that goes on the outside of the carburetor. It's got a little bit of a ramp on the a radius, just a little bit of a radius there, and it made the difference was 2 horsepower, 2 horsepower on 60 horsepower. So it's all of 5%. So it's a dramatic change in power when you're looking, because except for the supercharger, all the other improvements in power come so incrementally, and having that radius on there is so important. Some kind of stub stack, something, yes. So anyway, those the guys with the side draft Webers are reminded that maybe they'll work better if you get a different, or certainly a horn on them, some kind of stack, and whether one that is 1/4 of an inch long or 4 inches long, I don't know which. There may be a difference, and you really can't tell that stuff unless you put it on a dynamometer. And they're just offhand, there aren't any dynos in the United States. When I worked in England, 72, 73 at University Motors, they had a dyno at the end of the tune-up rack. They put all the cars on a dyno, and just ran the thing up and loaded it, and so they'd see what the maximum RPM was at each 500 increment, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 RPM, and just see what the max RPM that your max power that you could get. But there aren't any of those here in this country, so finding one is difficult, and then it's expensive to get your car on it to test it. So that whether it's a 1/4 inch stub stack or a 5 inch stub stack, who knows which one might be the best, but anything is better than just a 90-degree angle out there in front.
Hey, John, this is Bill Thornton.
Yes, sir.
I know I'm flogging a dead horse again, but going back to the Weber carbs, I've got a Weber just fitted to a 79 MGB, and the car starts beautifully. It runs really nicely. It's a little slow to come down from revs down to idle, but the biggest problem I have is the hot start. It just refuses to start when the car's hot. The only way I can get it to start is to floor the throttle, hold it there, and turn the key, and then it will crank and crank and crank and crank and crank, and then it will fire. But if the car's warm, I tried the venting of the not venting, but loosen the petrol cap. You get the hiss and then the bang, and it lets the pressure out and all that stuff. But it just will not start nicely on when it's warm. And I just wondered if anybody or you has a solution. I've seen all sorts of things on the internet, on YouTube, about putting a fuel filter with a pressure relief valve on it and vent it back
that's
to
not
the
that's
tank.
not the problem. No, the problem is the boiling gasoline in the float bowl.
Yeah.
So the carburetor when it's running is, again, it's ice cold, right? Because its whole function is to evaporate the gasoline. So the heat's got to come from someplace. So the carburetor is always just beyond stone cold, icy cold when it's operating. But once you turn the car off, then you've got convection, conduction, and radiation. Not so much conduction, because there's nothing to conduct heat into the carburetor, but you've got convection, you got all that hot air underneath the bonnet, and you got the manifold, which is radiating. So anything you can do to keep heat off the carburetor will not allow the gasoline to get so hot and start to boil so quickly. but somebody in somebody else, not me, in the Weber world can probably help you out a whole lot more with that.
Yeah, I've done the obvious thing. I've wrapped the header with heat wrap.
Sure.
So to stop that heat rising through and boiling the fuel. I know what the problem is. I just don't know.
Well,
fix it.
The people with SUs have got the problem too.
Yeah.
Not everybody. Some cars are just horrible, and
Yeah.
other cars never have that problem. They're buying the same gasoline in the same market. You know,
Yeah.
I don't. Greg Poffenberger was talking about a book called Modern Fuels, and this got a lot of. I mean, you know, if you're an engineer, you know, like an organic chemistry or engineer, it helps you understand some parts of that book. But everybody's experiencing this trouble. Where are you calling from?
I live in South Carolina.
Well, yeah, it's warmer there. So Judd's your guy.
Well, I've
Judd,
talked to Judd. He's
okay.
worked on my car.
Okay.
Bill's a good
We're in
friend.
the same club.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I know Judd. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
He's a great guy. He's done
Yeah.
a great job. Him and his buddy have done a great job on my car. But Judd will admit himself he's not a Weber guy. He's not a carburetor guy.
So call Pierce Manifold out in California and just call them and say, hey, I'm in South Carolina. It's hot here all the time. Thing won't start. I'm so frustrated. What can I do? What are some tricks? And it may be that they just tell you to very slowly to press the throttle. Don't jam it a couple times because you're just adding more gasoline, and the problem is it's too rich already.
Well, I actually have to floor it. It has to go straight to the metal and hold
and you just hold it. That's what Glenn says out of St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay.
He says just hold the throttle open and turn it till it starts.
Yeah.
You know, then it runs like crap for, 15
a minute,
seconds.
Yeah, a few seconds, yeah.
And then once the evaporation starts and it cools down, it runs great.
Yeah,
so,
that's true enough. All right, thank you very much. I'm glad you're feeling better and you're looking a lot better.
Very kind. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. See ya.
See ya.
I'm all set to go over to chat, but okay, yes.
Okay, so I thought I remembered seeing that you had a video or something on putting a vent into an aluminum alloy cover that wasn't vented, or is there a way just to vent a cap?
What year is your car?
I have an 80.
And what kind of carburation do you have?
Which day is it? Today I have a Makuni on it.
Okay.
Before that, it was a Holly Weber, and then I have a set of SUs as well. So I like to play with.
Okay. All right. Well, the goal is to keep air moving through the engine, and and it's designed. The engine is designed to pull a certain amount of air out of there, and you can pull it right into the air cleaner, which is one good place, or you can fit an early Smith's PCV valve. But if you got two legs on a manifold, without a balance tube between them, you've got to put that balance tube and put that Smith's PCV valve in there, hook that to the engine. But then if you open up the oil filler cap, for instance, with that Smith's PCV valve that you use 64 through 68, then the engine RPM is going to go way up because you've got all this air coming into the inlet after the jetting, after the fuel mixture. So you've got to meter the amount of air that's going into the engine, which in turn is being drawn out by the carburetor or the intake manifold. So you can either do that with a vented cap, and how big should the hole be? The hole in that 90-degree in the end of that 90-degree half-inch tube is 5/64. It's tiny. I mean, that's not even 1/8 of an inch. That's a tiny little hole there, and the air enters the engine there, and then swirls through and gets drawn out of the front tappet inspection cover, and then into wherever it's going. So, however you want to do that. So. And you can call me up too, and I'm more than happy to help you out with some of that stuff.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, because I thought I remember seeing you put a vent into a aluminum alloy cover.
Right. So you bring do you still have your charcoal canisters in place?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
No,
Well
those are gone. I do
then
have a Mishimoto thing anyway.
then just a whole a valve cover filler cap from, just a minute, let me get the right year, from about 69 back through about 64 is just fine. And
Okay.
if it'll fit a sealed later one, it'll fit the earlier one too. And that already has a filter in it and a hole to meter the air coming through.
Okay. Yeah, I might
Okay.
give you a ring too. So thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go over to the chat section here. Marty's got up something. Oh, our PayPal. Don't forget about our PayPal. That is so nice. Just a moment here. And Chip Eurico says, John, do any of your videos describe how to replace a PCV valve on a 79 MGB? Well, Chip, there is not a PCV valve on a 79B. The line goes directly from the front tappet inspection cover into the carburetor between the air piston and the throttle disc. So there isn't one there. And you must be asking because you got a different kind of carburetor on there. Are you still on, Chip?
I am. I'm trying to fix an oil leak, and I thought fixing a PCV valve might help.
Yes. If you can get a vacuum on the inside of the engine, it instead of pissing out on the ground, it may tend to hold the oil inside the engine. That's a fact. What kind of carburation do you have?
Zenith Stromberg.
All right, okay. That is about as good as it gets. And you just want to make sure that that hose that comes up from the front tappet inspection cover, what I used to do is use about a 3 or 4 inch piece of 1/2 inch heater hose. And then I used a piece of 5/16 hose and put a lot of grease on that 5/16 hose and pushed it inside of the 1/2 inch heater hose and then put that on the carburetor. And that's about as good as you can do it. Remember that oil leaks are from there are passive leaks, there are active leaks, and there are pressure leaks. So the very few passive leaks, like off the bottom of the drain plug, I mean, the oil's sitting there, is no higher than the top of the sump. Active leak is any gasket in the engine or any place where the oil might puddle, the seals might be faulty, and then the worst ones of all, absolutely, are the pressure leaks around the oil filter. That you get a drop of oil that drops out every 10 seconds. I don't know how many drops there are in a gallon of oil, but there are only so many. So you got to be really cautious about heavy leaking. And I don't know how to put any more vacuum on the inside of the engine than is already there.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. Marty Bradley's got some more stuff on here. The slideshow's up. Jim Nuznoff, he says someday he'd like to obtain an overdrive to overhaul so they can watch and learn from informational video. Hey, there are lots of overdrives out there for sale. You can buy a 68 through 80 MGB overdrive gearbox for $500 to $2,000, depending on who's got it, how badly they want to get rid of it, where it's coming from, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, you can watch the video without having it in front of you. Let's see. Pete Front is talking to Rick from Stephen City, Virginia. And then Terry Luft writes and says, I need to get a set of pistons for my MGC rebuild. How are the ones from Midland Sports and Classics? Midland Sports and Classics, is that a British firm? Terry, are you still on?
Yes, it is.
Pistons are pretty much, I don't want to say they're all the same, but pistons are pistons. It's the rings that make all the difference in the world. So I don't know. We got any other MGC owners online that can tell us anything about Midland Sports and Classics MGC pistons, or for that matter, what happened to Robert Kirk's inventory? Nobody, not tonight. Not a heavy presence of MGC people here, Terry. So.
Is Dean Hickenlooper still here? Dean Hickenlooper.
No, I was listening for Dean, but I don't.
I don't think he's on tonight.
Okay.
Years ago, I got a set from Cecilia.
MGC pistons?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You can always call out to Sports Car Craftsman, or call. You can't bug those guys too much because they're in the business and they're not there all day just to answer questions like I am. Or Glenn at Glenn's MG service and just say, hey, what's the scoop? Or you can contact either the MG, the North American MGB register and their C guy, or contact the American MGC Register Association and see what they have to say. So those are all possibilities. But Glenn and Paul Deershaw or Ian at Sports Car Craftsman, either one of them, are really good sources for knowing what's going on like right now. And they may have bought a set of pistons a year ago, but that may be more recently than most anybody else.
John, would the pistons from a Austin Healey 3000 be the same?
The rule is if the part can possibly be the same, possibly it's not. So I would say no. I've never heard that Healey pistons fit an MGC, or for that matter, pistons from an Austin 3-liter fit an MGC. And the MGC engine is basically the Austin 3-liter engine, but I don't know.
Terry, you might want to check with the MG Owners Club. They may have some pistons for you. Not sure. I don't remember where I got mine from, but that was years ago. But give them a shout.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, I'll do that.
MG Owners Club is a real good source out of England. They're not tied in with well, they are a big player, and the MG Owners Club started by Roche Bentley so many years ago, and they sell parts. They've got a warehouse with a $50 million inventory. I mean, it's a great big place, and they're selling stuff all the time everywhere. So yeah, it's an interesting place, and they got a nice online store, MG Owners Club in Swayze. I can't even spell it, but it's just north of Cambridge in Cambridgeshire.
I'll check them out. Yeah, I like the magnet. They say the magnet's just like the MGA except different.
Okay, all right.
John,
Okay.
Bruce Fellman in Kalispell, Montana. He has the article in the MG Driver, but he's in the MGC register.
Yes.
He might be a good source. He got a really nice MGC.
Okay.
So he's a nice guy too. He helped me out a lot. So he might have a source.
Thank you. I was just at David Smith's house last week, Thursday, in Holt, Michigan, Lansing, and he's got an MGC that we rebuilt, I don't know, 25 years ago or something or other, but he's very tied in with the MGC Register Association. So there's somebody out there. So
Moss is showing a set of pistons and rings available for the MGC.
All right. Okay.
Hey, Terry, I just didn't know if I wanted to trust Moss or not.
Hey, Terry, it's Bill Califa. Do you have Dean's contact info? Because I know he's rebuilding his C motor right now, and I think he just got pistons and stuff for it.
Yeah, we've been communicating. In fact, I think I put him onto the camshaft from Newman Cams over in England.
Oh, I think you did. He was talking about that recently. So, okay.
Yeah, we have matching cams.
Oh boy. Okay, from Brad Schwartz, when replacing the water pump in an MGA, must the radiator be removed or can it be just tilted forward? Oh my gosh, get it out of there. Just get it out of there. It's not that much more difficult. What's the process for filling the coolant so air is not trapped in the head? Just fill it up, start it up, let it idle with the radiator cap off, let it come up to full, fill it right up within a couple minutes, just as long as it's full. And then remember that when you're going to go out, you put the radiator cap on, you go out and drive and stop, the coolant's going to expand. and you're going to piss out a puddle of green antifreeze on the ground. It's not because the new water pump's bad. It's just because you've got too much coolant in the radiator, and it's just going to seek its own level. And then after that, it might piss out once more after that, and then it's stable. It'll be the same. So you don't have to worry. The MGC, we're back to MGCs. Those, oh my gosh, you got to get the air out of the head on those. Those are a real bugger.
So I don't have to disconnect the hose to the heater and
Just
get air?
take the heater return line and the ACH 5032 hose from the steel branch pipe over to the water pump and the top radiator hose. That's it, and they just lift the whole thing out.
No, I'm saying when filling, I don't have to disconnect like a
Oh,
hose
no,
to the heater and vent
no,
it out.
no,
Fill it
no,
up.
no. No, just open up the heater valve, and if that water pump's moving a lot of water, it'll purge most of the air out of that system. Of course, anybody who well, it does purge the air out of the system because it's pushing the hot water in at the bottom of the matrix and drawing it out at the top. So the air bubbles come out through the top. They'll come out. There's no
But
problem.
water is not moving when the thermostat's shut though.
After a couple of minutes of idling, it'll be just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
John, I use the cold air, the reverse flush kit and the heater hose.
Okay.
And it's a T-fitting, take the cap off, and I pour the antifreeze or whatever fluid, and when it comes up to the top of that, I close it up, and as most of the air is out of the system, I don't have a problem after that.
77 through 80 MGBs, there's a problem getting the air out of the system, and it's critical because the heat switch, which runs the cooling fans, won't come on unless it's encased in water. It can't be steam; it has to be water. And the MGCs are a real bugger. So anyway, John Vocher, who just bought this 69 MGB, while driving our MGB yesterday, all the electrical instruments went out to 0. What should I look for? And that is the top fuse or bottom fuse. That's a 2-fuse box, isn't it, John?
I think it's 4.
Oh, then it's the third fuse down.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
68. 68 picks up the. No, come on. 69.
Is it a 9?
No, it's a 2-fuse box. It's the white and green ones. So pop the fuse out, pinch the terminals, snap the fuse back in, push it back and forth. It'll work perfect.
Okay.
Mark Webb, my 1980 MGB LE VIN ends in 504408. If that helps place the VIN, that's still pretty early. I bet that's still 79. I bet that's still the build date. You've got a build date on the plate too. I bet that's still 79, isn't it? Or maybe 1 of January or something of 1980. Because I think those numbers went through about 514. So, but Mark Webb, you can contact me later. Send me that VIN in an email, and I'll look it up, and I'll be able to tell you a little bit more on there. Conrad Christ has got a note on here. Conrad, are you in relation to Walt Christ, who ran the Midwest MGA Club out of Kansas City?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right, okay, nice guy. Anyway, we already talked about the Zenith Stromberg, the Zenith downdraft. Yeah, I've had people talk to me and say, I got that original Stromberg Carlson radio on or a carburetor on my car, Stromberg Carlson. Anyway, here QL says, how can I find out what carb my car is running? Is it stamped on the body? Seeing is believing. So, Mr. Hergel, if you send me a picture or FaceTime me tomorrow, I'm more than happy to tell you what kind of carburetor you've got. So, and here we go. Marty Bradley's put up Tom Longa's name again, MGT Repair. When we were in business together in 1971, we were MGT series specialists. And I always say, part of that was true. So here we got Brian Dawkins says, look up British Motor Heritage Trust, and you can get all the information that you want that they have from the factory records. And then we got another one. What's the link to find? Okay, well, so we know that it's British Motor Heritage Trust. They're online, and it used to be that you'd send them $20 and you get a certificate suitable for framing. I bet it's up to $100 now, but it's all the adoption information. It doesn't have the key number on it, but it might have the engine number, got the body number, the commission number, might have the gearbox number, might have the differential number, probably not. They weren't keeping that kind of stuff then. I'm going down farther. Hardy and Eco still exists. Hardy is very reliable. Okay. Brian Dawkins says my 1980 Canadian MGB Mark IV has a VIN ending in 513106. Claimed the build date was February 1980. So anyway, so that 503 it was made back in the one that ended or began 503 something or other. That must have been made yet in 79. Remember, the model years are based on U.S. federal spec and Canadian spec model years, and that is anything built September or later is the next model year, with exceptions. So, British Superior, that's it. Thank you. British Superior in New York, Joe Curto. They have all the original SU gaskets, and so probably not that one-way valve, but all the rest of them. So Bill Weekly, I've got a Facet pump in series upstream of an SU pump on my MGC. I prefer the operation of the SU, but the Facet is as fail-safe. So on my MGA, I've got two SU pumps in parallel. Either way it works. So thanks, Bill. David Vasili, I have to admit the appearance of a downdraft Weber doesn't look great on the MGB engine, but the performance, reliability, tunability, and simplicity of the Weber can't be matched by SUs. Just saying. Now I'm saying a well set up set of SUs will give you incrementally, not a lot, incrementally more power than the Weber. And here we got more people weighing in with their attitudes about the DGV on a 77 and so forth. And there is an SU you can buy to replace the Stromberg. You can do that, but if you're going to go to an SU, just go to dual SUs. You can buy a kit with the original factory exhaust manifold. There's no better exhaust manifold available for an MGB than the factory cast iron manifold, of which there are two varieties, 63 through 71 and 72 through 80 if you're in the British MGs, or 72 through 74 if you're in the American and Canadian spec. So the difference in flange thickness. We get a lot of addresses here for Pegasus, Redline, Pierce manifolds, all this stuff. That's why Marty's so helpful, because I sure cannot do that kind of work while I'm trying to talk. We got George Folchi's number on here, who does the Judson Supercharger rebuilt. And someone says, is the edition different from his 2025 edition? It's expanded. So Steve Shupak, yes, it is expanded. But you can, I'm sure Marty will make you a deal. We can continue. If you paid for it once, I'm not going to make you buy it twice.
Happy to buy another one, but if I'm going to do it again, you got to sign it again.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And here we got information about the Marshall Nordeck blower, classic engines, modern fuel. We got all these links up here. Where can I send my MGA Speedo for repair? Yes, a different question. Yes, there are two places I know of right now. There are three places. One is called British Speedo, something like that. They're in New York State. They're an offshoot from Neisinger, who quit doing it when their workshop got flooded by some hurricane and they lost all their stuff, all their stuff. And Peter, who was running the company, just said that's it, we're done. But there's somebody else who's picked up in New York State. I think it's something like British Speedo. Then there's MoMA, M-O-M-A, named for Morris and Margaret, who set up a business together in Albuquerque. Morris continued moving west, and he set up West Valley Instruments. And I'm not sure where they are, probably in the greater Los Angeles area, maybe in California. So those are three places that I know of that can rebuild your MGA Speedo.
Okay, thanks, John.
Hey, you're very welcome.
I know the West Valley Instruments is taking now and saying maybe they can get it done in 18 months.
So if someone needs a job and you're good with little tiny stuff, little tiny gears and little tiny springs and using magnifying glasses and tweezers, and your hands don't have a geriatric shake, I bet Morris would be more than happy to employ you there. So
British Speedo rebuilt my speedometer within a week.
And they're where are they?
Golden's Bridge, New York.
Where's that?
Golden's Bridge, New York.
Westchester.
Golden, G-O-L-D-E-N-S.
Oh, Golden's Bridge.
Golden Bridge. Okay, I'm in New York. I'm in New York also, so that'll help.
Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Glad we got that out. And then Marty says, I answer my technical questions from 1 to 2. It's the time I prefer to take them. I mean, if you're underneath a car and something's dripping on you, you're not exactly sure, you can call me, but I prefer to take them between 1 and 2. Sometimes I'm busy then. I've got another call and I will call you back. Almost always. Any phone call works better than an email. Here we got, what about a good supplier for MG 1622 piston rings? So that's Grant, G-R-A-N-T, Devis, D-E-V-E-S.
That's Pat Garrity recommended Devis.
Oh, or Hastings. They're all cast iron rings. It's
one that's for Deves rings. The owner will answer the phone. He knows everything there is to know about him. They break in better than Hastings. Are still at the lower end when you buy a new piston. It may well come with a Hastings ring. But I really love Deves rings.
Okay, because I'm still using my standard pistons. Because I had to, just sleeve the cylinder. I was the one that had the car for 40 or 50 years, and I started and it was seized. The biggest problem was I had to pull the motor out. The biggest problem was the tachometer drive. That was so seized up, driving you couldn't turn the cam. It just couldn't. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So the secret to separating dissimilar metals is quenching. Of course, you can't quench unless you heat. Oh. So back there, I would have taken my propane torch and heated that aluminum housing.
But I didn't know it until I pulled the engine apart.
Oh yeah, okay.
And the rings, some of the rings that were stuck on the on the standard pistons.
Yeah.
I heated them up in kerosene. Man, pop! That just broke them right up.
Yep,
Had
nice.
2 fires.
Yep. The rule is don't break anything. I just had to take the water jacket off an MGC engine in place, and the water jacket is 18 inches long. I mean, it's as long as the whole friggin' engine, and it's got, I don't know, 13 bolts into it, all 5/16 fine thread. And one of them, the head broke off. And the second one, the guy stopped. All the rest of them came out, but he stopped. He didn't want to break that one. And I had to bring my oxyacetylene torch over to his house, assemble the oxyacetylene torch, get it really friggin' hot, because those are all similar metals. So you separate similar metals by heating, but dissimilar metals by quenching. But you can't quench unless you heat first.
And the other question that I have too is, what's kind of the difference between the early MGB cams and a 1622 cam?
I don't know. In that engine book, there are I bet there's a list of 70 cams, and it all has to do with how high they move how far they move the
Lift.
valve,
Yep.
and when they move the valve. And some of them work best at 800 RPM, and some work best at 8,000 RPM.
And
And
who's
that they only work within a range. But other than that, they're the same. I get a 1622. I got Anton, the late David Anton's VP12.
where's a good supplier for a cam also? Because I've got some pitting on that from where it sat on the tappets.
There are a couple different cam manufacturers. I think Webcam, WEB, Webcam is still there, and they'll take your old cam as a core. They rebuild the cam. They don't build new ones. They rebuild them. You can argue about whether that's what you want or not, but it depends on what kind of use you're going to put through. Delta, I know Delta makes cams. And then there are all the cams that are available through the major parts suppliers.
Yeah, I don't trust Moss on some of that stuff.
They come in white boxes, and you don't, without being able to test the Rockwell hardness, and without putting it on a lift and matching the lift against something else, you don't know what kind of profile it's got. So
you say webcam, they sort of regrind the cams.
yep. And the last I knew, Webcam was a completely woman-operated company. The owners and the people there. It's very unusual in this trade. I don't know. That was 25 years ago. It may have changed. It may have changed. But I didn't even know they were still in business. Yes.
I just got my camshaft for my MGC from Newman Cams in England. Great service. The cam is gorgeous. Who knows how it'll hold up, but they make cams from scratch.
Okay.
They make them for everything. Pre-war, motorcycles, you name it.
Is that NEW or NEU?
NEW, I believe.
Okay, Newman Cams out of England. Okay, all right.
I'll get the website and put it on.
How's all these tariffs now affecting some of the stuff coming out of the UK?
I had no VAT and no tariffs on it. It came right to the house DHL. It was like 4 or 5 days I got the cam.
And that was how long ago was that?
Last week.
Last week. Okay, because I've heard there's some people having delays and whatnot. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got hit by about a 25% or 30% tariff on a replacement grill coming out of MGOC spares.
Okay.
So it kind of depends, $300 on parts, and then another 180 or $100 for damn glad to have yous.
I'm not going to say that I don't get a bill next week, so who knows?
Okay,
John, the Team Triumph out of Warren, Ohio, he uses a machine shop that grinds cams, and I got one from him, and it said this similar specs to the ones Moss sells for the street cam.
Okay.
I had it in there for years and years, and it's been fine.
Well, we got in this engine rebuilding book, I've got a list of like 75 cams, and they're all defined by inlet and open, exhaust and intake, maximum lift, and the suggested timing. The original timing is 110 after top dead center, and then some of the real high performance ones are moved as far forward as 102 before. But the cams range all the way from up to almost a 300 degree duration, which is you can't run them on the street. They won't idle less than $4,000. So they're just all the cams work within ranges, but you want a cam that's going to stay with you, and it's going to work out well. So the David Anton's VP12 I have in my MGA because I like to drive fast. And once I'm at 25, 30 miles an hour, it's fine. It's great. But down low speed, it's not, you can't get everything. So I traded low speed, which I really don't care a whole lot about, for high speed. Because when I'm going down, when I'm moving on to, I love driving on the expressway because that's the only place you can drive fast safely. I'm doing, I don't know, 3,500 RPM, and I put my foot down, and I can take it right up to 5,500. So I love that. I love that cam.
All right, thank you.
But I got
Hey,
it from,
John.
I got it from Forrest Johnson at Rusty Moose Garage, and he had it in his MG, and he took it out. He got sick of it. I found I got the magic combination of stuff. So yes,
John, this is Barney.
Marty.
Hey, we get off subject pretty quick. You were mentioning cast iron piston rings.
Yeah.
Aerolite has been using three-piece wiper rings in their pistons. Is there any problem with those?
So that's the oil rings, right?
Yeah, the oil
Yeah,
wiper rings.
yeah. That's I was talking about the cast iron compression rings. So no, the three piece ones are fine. I sometimes they use Hastings rings on those aerolites. I think that's what I because sometimes the pistons come, the pistons are in a box and then the rings are loose, and they come in a Hastings 5779, right? Remember that, Tom? That's the Hastings piston ring for a TD Hastings number. All these numbers.
The little thin rings on the oil wipers.
Yeah.
Those are typically chrome plated on the edges because they're
Yeah.
so thin.
Right.
I don't think you want to use chrome on any of the upper rings that are wider.
No, there's all kinds of chrome vanadium. There's all kinds of stuff that's maybe it's great for other applications, other speeds, piston speeds. Piston wall. I don't no idea. I don't know very much about anything other than MGs. But it's the cast iron rings are the ones that you're after. And what Glenn told me was that Grant, Davis, and Hastings all get their rings cast from the same place. And I think he told me it was Grant, but maybe Deves works with them more. Tom's a real Tom Long is a real firm believer in the Davis rings. So,
John, I was up last time I put my engine together. The last cylinder I broke the top piston ring, and everybody wants to sell you a whole set.
yeah,
You need one ring. Clyde Tool and Die in Clyde, Ohio. He got me one in Hastings in a couple of days.
Okay.
And small shop. They do a lot of British cars, but they do all sorts of cars. It's just a small local shop. But yeah, if you're looking for one ring, there's the guy to
all
go.
right. Thank you. Dave Quinn. Wow, you made me glad I'm still using SU carbs and an SU fuel pump. The fuel pump is a Tom Ball rebuild. Plus, I have one of his for a spare. So Tom Ball, NAMGAR member from forever, with a real cool car, an MGA with all these little hidden compartments, and a button that once he showed you the car, he'd give you the button. I've taken the Tom Ball tour, but a car got crashed. Oh my gosh, what, 15 years ago? And he just hasn't got around to fixing it. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble trying to get in touch with Tom for rebuilding pumps.
If you need a rebuilt Tom Ball pump, again, Team Triumph had a bunch of them in stock. I got one, and it's I asked him, it's the one with the points or the electronic?
No, you don't. No, not the electronic.
He said no. He said he gets a lot of returns. Just get the one with the points, and it's like $100.
Yeah, with the point ones, you can always beat on and get them to work.
We did that. We broke down, and I was going to call AAA, and then I thought, hey, I handed Gloria a big wrench. She smacked the carburetor. We drove for a few miles. She had to get out, smack it again, about 4 times before we got home.
Yep, I've been there. We most of us have been there. Hey, this is the premier note from tonight from Dave Quinn. I've been driving the MGA for 50 plus years. Glad to send you a PayPal for another show. Thank you, Dave. That's very kind. I just talked about you today in seatbelts. So we got the MGA Speedo repair taken care of. And then David Basili, have to admit that the appearance of a downdraft Weber doesn't look great on the MGB engine, but I already saw that before. Yep, he's happy with the way. Well, yeah, they work great. They're real easy. Let's see. And other people are weighing in here saying that they run SUs and everything, and Here's Scott Lynn. Weber was on sale for less of the cost of the rebuild. And now I've been running with the Weber for 26 years with pretty much zero maintenance. So the proof is in the pudding. If you open up a midget and you look and there's a downdraft Weber, it's like, yuck, it's horrible. The form is just wrong, but the function is there. That's his point. So anyway, thank you very much for all that. And then we got webcam. We got some notes here from Carrie. We've got Clyde Tool and Die. Marty already got that up in Team Triumph. So we are all set. We are all done with our show for tonight.